everyone. I'll just wait to see if anybody's there. You have to excuse, I have spotlights in my dining room. It's the only part in my house that's reasonably clean and tidy that I'm happy to do a live from. So you have to deal with the odd shadows and things. I need to try and find a nice little light or something to make it less shadowy. How is everybody? So it's official that schools will be closing on Friday, indefinitely. So I know there's lots of people that's caused some anxiety. Hello, I can see somebody's there. I have spent my day creating timetables and activity ideas, getting my teacher brain back on. It was a bit chillier today than it was yesterday. We also tried going shopping and there was very little in the supermarkets. No meat, no vegetables, no bread, no flour, no yeast. So my meals are going to be somewhat imaginative. Right, I've got a few people there, so I'm going to start. So those of you who I haven't introduced myself, I'm Kizzy. I am toddler CAlm trained, and I am also a early years and primary school teacher. Although I haven't been teaching for a while, I've been a mum, but that part of your brain never really goes away. So with this craziness that is going around, I have volunteered to come on and give you some activity ideas of what you can do with your children. So the topics are quite vague. Topics are quite vague because that allows for them to be adjusted and adapted to suit your little one's age, ability and interests. So today we're going to look at floating and sinking. Okay, so water fun. Water is a fantastic way to play and learn, and kids love it. So my idea with water is that it can be done in a bucket or in a tray. I quite like using like storage boxes or something. Also in the bath. So when I have been stuck at home previously, Joshua which is my son, gets bored halfway through the day. I get bored of being downstairs in our room. And we kind of exhausted all of the spaces that we can move around. That bathroom is actually quite a nice change of space. So I quite often fill the bath and there we do some learning and some play, depending on what kind of toys we've got lying around. It's really lovely sensory experience, but it's also a great way to develop vocabulary. And a lot of the activities that I will suggest as a teacher, the biggest struggles that I always found was expanding children's vocabulary. So because in school we spend so much time focusing on writing, we forget about the talking part. So doing lots of practical activities where we're talking and we're using and just playing around with that vocabulary is really great. And it might not feel like maybe you're doing learning, but you are, because without that vocabulary, children can't write. And find it more difficult to express themselves and things. It just really helps with their creativity. So I'm going to start off with babies. This is aimed kind of from when they're sitting. So they can be in a bathtub or a large bucket. So one of the I can't remember, flexi tubs. So my son used to sit in a flexi tub, just put some water in it, and anything that's sort of developmentally appropriate for that child, give them some toys. Let them play around with it. Maybe use a sponge and sort of squeeze the water out, show them that water can squeeze, watch it kind of fill up, watching it float and then filling it up and letting it, like midday bath time is fantastic. I love a midday bath time. Watching the sponge fill up, also the different weight and the different textures. So it's a really interesting way for babies to figure out the materials and things around them. It also really helps with their water confidence, which is fab. We're not going to be able to go swimming and maybe even to the beach. So this could be a really nice way to be able to keep that water exposure. Also a fantastic way to build that sensory play. So give them a different thing. So it could just be one day you can give them a cup, another day you can give them a sponge. Just play around. Don't overwhelm them. We quite often put too many things in the bath at once for a baby. They're probably more than happy to just fill and pour from one cup. So I would choose only 1 or 2 things to put in the water with tiny babies. So we're looking at toddlers. Next, give them a few objects that you know will sink or float. Pop them on the side of the bath or next to the bucket or bowl of water, whatever you've chosen to do, and let them play with the objects and the water. As they're doing it, just talk to them about what they're doing. Literally, so you would just say what you see. So saying what you're seeing them doing. Again, this really helps with vocabulary and just making connections of what they're doing. So I've got some notes to try and keep me on track. So naming the objects, naming the colour of the object, naming the shapes, talking about it. So kind of like, oh, look, the ball is floating. Or, oh, can you grab the green ball? Or things like that. So you're also getting the kind of the floating and the sinking language in there. But you can also do preposition. So kind of it's on the water, it's under the water, that sort of thing. So lots of vocabulary that you'll do automatically is really great for toddlers and their understanding and their increase in speech. And by saying, oh, green ball, can you pass me the green ball? Or the green ball's floating, you're putting those words into full sentences as well, which will help with that language acquisition and things as well. So preschoolers, again, either in a bath or in a tub, again, provide them with a range of objects that sink or float. Get them to talk about the objects, so get them to give you the name of the object, the colour, what they look like, what they feel like, any of those kind of things. So you could probably get some good describing words in there. And then get them to put them on the water and really kind of follow their lead. They may be really interested in just playing with them. Then that's fantastic. Just let them play with them. You can still say what you see and see if they engage in that. But it is all about following their lead. So if you are, so you can introduce the words such as floating and sinking. You can even like fish for objects. So any of the objects that have sunk to the bottom, you could go, oh, can we fish for, what have we lost? Can we fish for it? What does it feel like under the water? Anything like that. A follow-on activity that you might want to do is maybe create a boat from something around the house and see if you can get it to move across water, or maybe have a race. That's quite a nice little activity that you can do. And it's also a bit crafty as well. It's interesting to see which things like absorb water and maybe sink to the bottom and just end up in a sort of a mush, along with maybe a paper boat, which they might, will most likely end up in mush, but to see it floating at the beginning is quite nice. So school-age children, this is where you've got a whole, it's just a whole world of things that you can do with that. Again, if they want to have a bath, let them have a bath and let them do it in the bath. Maybe just give them some objects and let them play around in the bath. Don't know if you've seen like jelly bath, which is like a slime type thing. Maybe let them have a bit of a play in that with some toys, because then they're experiencing a very different kind of liquid. It's not even really a liquid, is it? It's just, I don't even know how to describe slime. But yes, let them just have a bath and play around with some things that soak, things that sink, things that float. Just like some of the activities that I talked about that you would do with younger children. But then what you can do is you can develop those further. So once they come out, you can look at the objects and you can talk about the materials those objects are made from. You can look at the properties of those objects. You can look at the shapes within them. You can do these things verbally or written down. So some children may really like putting things in there and then drawing the list of things that float, or drawing the list of things that sink. Some children may like to write it down. Give them a choice. Some children might like to cut out some pictures of things that are made of that material. So if all of the wooden things, like some of the wooden things, float, then they may want to find an old magazine or cards and cut them out and stick them on a piece of paper and kind of categorize them. That's absolutely, just be creative with it. Next thing that they could do is they could create an experiment. So this is where your slightly more able and high level thinking comes in. When we're creating an experiment, we are going to decide on a question, we're going to estimate, we're going to test, and we're going to record. So you're going to want to think of a question such as, oh, I wonder if, or I wonder how, I wonder why, I wonder where, or I wonder what, and finish that question. And then you're going to decide how you're going to test that question. So with sinking and floating, you're going to put the object on the water and see what happens. So they can then draw their how they're going to carry out their investigation. So they might want to draw a bucket, for example, and some objects next to it. They can draw it or they can write it. If they're going to draw and they're writers, you can let them have a try at labelling it. Really follow your children's lead. It doesn't matter, it's about the thought process, not necessarily how they record it. So then the next thing they're going to do is they're going to make a prediction. So what they think is going to happen to that object before they put it in the water. Then they're going to test it. They're going to put the object in the water. And then after that, they're going to record it. So how they're going to record their findings can be in a really creative way, and they can have a good think about it as well. You can be on chalkboards, it can be on window. What are they called? Like paint sticks are really good drawing on windows with, and they wash off really nicely. Or they can create a physical table. They can create, actually put the objects, categorize the objects on the floor, on a mat, or in a park. I mean, opportunities are endless of how they record. It doesn't have to be pen and paper. Sorry, I think my connection went. If your child struggles with fine motor skills, doing something with gross motor skills will really help them. So being able to physically move the objects around. And then after you've recorded it, then you're going to have a chat about what they learned. So what were the similarities and differences between the things that did float and didn't? And if they want to go further into an investigation, let them, like, oh, well, that wood floats, but that one doesn't. Let them explore, let them play. It quite often leads to different research and different experiments, especially about materials. I love a science investigation. And of course, making boats and racing boats is always a good idea for whatever age that you are. So that was a whistle-stop tour of floating and sinking. I have got written notes, which I will pop up for you to refer to. I hope that was helpful. If anybody has any questions, do give me a wave or pop your questions down below. I'll just wait a moment because I don't know how long the delay is before I sign off. Right, hope everybody is going to have a lovely evening. I'm off to... Oh, I'm so pleased you've got lots of ideas. Yes, be versatile, be creative, follow your children's leads. And yeah, there's some fab, like little mini videos. Kit and Pup, they're CBeebies. Episode 7, I think it was, on series 1, they did about floating and sinking, and there'll be some YouTube things as well. Right, I'm going to go and have a good evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. And I can't remember what my theme is tomorrow, but I'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock for our next instalment. All right. I love Kit and Pup. Bye.